A 10-day after the events of Illumin Rishi Moon, Obi-Wan and Cody had fallen into a thrilling rhythm. In the morning, breakfast with the men and the cadet, then a day spent bent over intelligence reports and star maps hunting for Grievous with a short break for some kind of midday meal, followed by Jedi lessons with Kaz that Cody sometimes would participate in, then late meal, after which Obi-Wan and Kaz would always meditate and Cody would join them on the days he practiced with Kaz. 3 times a week, they would also block out time for hand-to-hand and best guide combat lessons, with Cody instructing Obi-Wan and Kaz, the remaining days reserved for lightsaber techniques. Cody had found himself unable to shake the vague feeling that the best guide lessons had greater purpose for him than just teaching Obi-Wan and Kaz. Always, when he went through the motions, he had the thought that the blade of the lightsaber was the wrong color, that it ought to be brilliant white instead. His dreams when he was stuck on a particularly difficult part of the kata reinforced this, and the fact that he was solving those problems in his dreams at all left him very uncomfortable. The implications of that were too much for him to deal with, so he firmly pushed it away for later, which was easily done with Obi-Wan there to distract him. Always, without fail, after meditation and seeing Kaz to bed, Cody and Obi-Wan would stay up in the general's quarters. After getting carried away that first night, the second night they hadn't dared to do anything other than talk, both of them leery of getting caught in the feedback loop again. However, longing overcame their reticence, and on the third night the talking was interspersed with closeness and kisses, much to their delight. So far, they'd managed to avoid getting too lost in the feelings swirling between them, Obi-Wan watching their bond like a hawk as he was the one who could sense it starting to happen first, having greater training in the Jedi mental arts than Cody. As it turned out, the Negotiator was not the ship that spotted the Clanker General first. That honor went to the Resolute, who found themselves pinned in the Botha-Wee system, outnumbered and outgunned. Obi-Wan had urged them to retreat, but true to form, Skywalker did not, and Cody had felt his blood boil at that, because Rex was there and in danger and he could do nothing from 6 systems away. Obi-Wan had talked Cody down, and in the process, reminded the commander of his forgotten promise to help Obi-Wan paint his armor. So, in order to take his mind off the stupid risks that Skywalker liked to take, Cody had found himself in Obi-Wan's quarters with Kaz, a piece of his general's armor on the desk with a small can of paint and some brushes. Obi-Wan had decided on painting his other pauldron with Cody's crest, and shortly after their impromptu arts and crafts moment, they'd received word that Skywalker had thwarted Grievous with the most insane plan Cody had ever heard. As soon as the dust had settled from that encounter, Cody had called Rex and ripped his vodka a new one for going along with that harebrained scheme, then congratulated him on his success. The drama of Skywalker losing his droid had followed the 5-0 worst for the next few days, and several worried holocalls from Obi-Wan later, the droid had been retrieved and Grievous stymied again. Skywalker had risked the lives of his men for a droid whose memory banks he should have overwritten but didn't. That, too, had made Cody's blood boil and only added evidence to the growing collection in Cody's mind of all the borderline things Skywalker did. He was moving from vague disquiet to outright dislike when it came to the other general. He did his best to keep it to himself, knowing that it upset Obi-Wan that he didn't get along with Anakin, and he knew it influenced how Kaz interacted with his Padawan brother, something Cody did not want to do. Now, here they were, a few days fresh from that crisis and on to the next. Rex, Ahsoka, and General Skywalker were on their way over to the Negotiator. Gare Intelligence had pinned the location of Count Dooku, and the current plan was to set a trap and capture the Sith Lord and take him prisoner. Cody wasn't too sure about it, but Rex and his general were on the way to hammer out the details. The only thing Cody knew for sure was that Skywalker would be the bait. Alone. Cody was okay with this. They were already gathered in the conference room, and Kaz had his datapad in front of him, reading some Jedi lessons while they waited for Rex, Ahsoka, and Skywalker to show up. Obi-Wan was standing in front of the large viewing windows, arms crossed and one hand on his beard, staring out into the vastness of space. Cody pushed up from his chair and wandered over to him, longing to put an arm around Obi-Wan's waist, but knowing that he could not. Obi-Wan looked over at him, lips twitching up briefly. "Ready to plan this next cark-up of a mission?" Cody raised an eyebrow. "We haven't even started and you're already sure it's gonna go tits up?" Obi-Wan sighed, gesturing in the air lightly with his fingers. "In the ass, perhaps? I don't know." "What do you sense? Me?" Cody was still not used to being asked that question, but Obi-Wan knew now that Cody was a far better barometer for these things than he was, so he constantly pushed at Cody to sharpen his own senses in the Force. Frowning, Cody reached out carefully, opening his shields a little and letting the Force flow through him. He was getting better at that, too. Unease came to him from the Force, and Cody tensed. You're right," Obi-Wan grimaced. "I was afraid of that. It's not that bad, though," Cody continued, eyes going vacant as he felt out further with the Force. He pulled himself back when he felt it reaching for him with greedy fingers. After denying the Force for so long, anytime he really reached for it, it tried to snatch him up. He shook his head and came back to himself. It's barely there, I can hardly sense it. You're getting better at that, Kaz said from his chair, having spun it around to watch his master and Cody. Guess so, Cody shrugged, not nearly as invested in learning and mastering the Force as Kaz was. Yes, indeed. Obi-Wan looked over at him, pride lingering at the edges of his expression. He was always supportive of Cody's Force use, taking a quiet joy in the commander's successes. Kaz smiled at them. You'll be a Jedi yet, Cody. No, I won't. Cody rolled his eyes dramatically, used to this silly argument from Kaz. The cadet only did it to get a rise out of him, and Cody obliged, enjoying the game. That's what you're here for, kid. Two be Jedi are better than one. Kaz wheedled, breaking out his newly learned Mandoa phrase. You won't sway me with Mandoa, Cody replied with a narrow-eyed look. I won't, Kaz fake gasped, letting his eyes go wide and putting on a pleading expression, doing his best impression of Sad Toka eyes. Sad Toka eyes won't either. Sad Toka eyes won't what? Rex asked, breezing into the room on that phrase. Rex, Kaz exclaimed, argument forgotten and face splitting in a happy grin. Hey, kid. Rex smiled at him, nodding at Cody. Cody, Rex, General, Captain, Obi-Wan. Anakin came barreling into the room next, Ahsoka right after him looking harried. Why do we have to meet over here? What's wrong with the Resolute? We used your ship last time, Obi-Wan replied blandly. Anakin narrowed his eyes as he sat in the chair at the head of the table. Come on, I don't know, I haven't been here yet, this is fun, Ahsoka said, grabbing the seat to Anakin's right. Rex settled by her, Obi-Wan on Anakin's left right next to Kaz and Cody on the other side of the cadet. Ahsoka was in Cody's usual seat, but she had no way of knowing that, following her master and his habits. Cody fought the urge to get annoyed. Obi-Wan was different than all the other Jedi, and there was no way for Skywalker to know that usually no one sat in that chair. Likely, Admiral Yularen did normally on the Resolute, and any other Jedi would probably do the same. It was not fair to hold other people to a standard they didn't know existed, after all. It's a Venator-class starship, Rex pointed out the obvious. It's the same as ours, Commander. I mean, it looks the same, Ahsoka rebutted, smiling easily. But it definitely doesn't feel the same in the Force. The ship is different. Really? Kaz asked, leaning forward, elbows on the table and curiosity in his eyes. What's different? I mean, I noticed a difference on the Resolute, but I'm curious to know your thoughts. Ahsoka lit up at being asked such a question, eager to answer. Rex smiled indulgently at her, and Cody felt himself relax a little. Kaz and Rex liked her, and that was enough for him. It's calmer, Adivenes. The Resolute is a little chaotic sometimes, but the ship isn't. It's steady, no wild ups and downs, Kaz smirked knowingly. Yeah, I can probably figure out why that is. Hey now, Anakin interjected, correctly sensing where Kaz was going with that thought. We are chaotic, we just like fun. We like fun too, Kaz defended, smile still on his face. Just ask Waxer and Boyle. Oh, and Chris and Longshot. They totally nearly blew up the— Yeah, they don't need to know that. Cody quickly intercepted that story before it could be completed. Oh, you mean the detonator prank that nearly went south yesterday? Obi-Wan said mildly, eyes glinting in mischief. He crossed his arms over his chest, bringing his newly painted pauldron into view for the first time. Yes, I had heard about that one from Helix. Hold on, Rex exclaimed, pointing at Kenobi's right arm. What is that on your pauldron? Obi-Wan smiled and tilted it towards the captain so he could see it better. Do you like it, Rex? I just did it a few days ago. Rex grinned, teeth flashing. He held up his right hand, showing Obi-Wan the back of it and the newly painted blue sunburst on the small plate that covered it. Where a blue line once continued, it had been removed, ending at the edge of the vambrace, and instead Cody's four-lined crest now was emblazoned there. Yeah, I do. Don't think you're forgiven just because you finally painted your armor. I'm still mad at you about the space tanks, Cody said. The look in his eyes could have made Hoth freeze over again. Rex winced. That look had not lost one iota of power since they had been young. Right. What does that symbol mean? Anakin asked, frowning at them. Uneasy silence fell. Obi-Wan cleared his throat and spoke. It means glory. Cody barely stopped himself from giving Obi-Wan an incredulous look. That was the most technically correct answer he had ever heard. He just rolled with it. Ah, yeah. The whole of it, Gote. It's Mando, Rex nearly choked, breath hitching. He just nodded quickly at Skywalker. Yeah, it's a Mando thing. Don't worry about it, sir. Anakin rolled his eyes. He gave Obi-Wan a sardonic look. You've always been obsessed with that place, Master. He shrugged. Well, so long as you're happy with it. I think it looks nice. Ahsoka did not look remotely convinced, but she also knew better than to push the subject. She and Kaz shared a look, and she could tell that if she asked him later outside of the meeting that he would explain it to her properly. Something about her master was preventing all of them from saying what they really meant, and as usual, her master entirely missed those social cues. He was the most oblivious person she had ever met by far, but that only endeared him to her. Anyway, Obi-Wan began, tone all business. Everyone but Anakin straightened in their seats. We should get this planning session started. Yeah, I still don't like it, Anakin protested immediately. Why do I always have to be the bait anyway? Because you're the perfect choice, Obi-Wan answered, face blank but his presence smug in the Force. And Dooku utterly despises you for some reason. He won't be able to resist. Yeah, I still don't know what I did, Anakin said, a bewildered look on his face. If anything, it should be the other way around. He cut off my arm. Cody raised an eyebrow. He had to give Skywalker that one. Dooku's hatred was strangely virulent. Yeah, that's an odd one, sir. It just means you're extra tasty Sith bait, Master, Ahsoka said teasingly. Like spicy home cooking, Kaz agreed, mischief in his eyes. Anakin crossed his arms and pouted at them. Ew, come on. Not you too, Snips. Kaz and Ahsoka mimed a high five across the table and Cody hid a grin in his fist, disguising it as a cough. Shorty continued. All right, so we present General Skywalker as tantalizing bait, but then what? Anakin gave him a look, unsure if Cody were teasing him or not. He decided to ignore it. Well, that's the problem. I get captured, and then what? Shrug at him? Hardly seems like that would do anything besides give the Seppies a bargaining chip. We are giving them a bargaining chip, Obi-Wan said, all traces of levity gone. He knew Cody was not going to like what he was about to say, but he plowed on. And I'll sneak on board Dooku's ship and rescue you. Then the two of us will grab him when he's least expecting it. That's a terrible plan, sir, Cody immediately objected, just like Obi-Wan knew he would. You should at least take a small task force, or better yet, Rex and I with you. I agree, sir, Rex said, jumping in to support Cody like the good little brother he was. He realized abruptly that Commander Tano was the only one in the room who didn't know Cody was Force-sensitive, which stopped him from mentioning it. He locked eyes with Cody and signed something quickly, getting an affirmative nod in return. I'm a crack shot. Cody's a good fighter and he'd be Force-assisted back up. Ahsoka goggled at Rex. What do you mean, Force-assisted back up? Obi-Wan seemed to actually consider this, looking at Cody calculatingly. Yes, Cody was very skilled. He could also sneak around with the best of them, and he had an unusual talent with concealing himself in the Force. Obi-Wan remembered that meeting in the Chancellor's office where Cody had nearly disappeared before his eyes, going entirely blank in the Force. Dooku would not be able to sense that he was even there. He would be a true surprise attack and a tactical advantage. Yes, I suppose you're right about that, Rex. I'd feel better if they went with you, Master, Anakin said, throwing his vote into the ring. Rex is right. Cody is pretty good at using the Force to fight. He could probably knock Dooku right on his pampered ass. He can what? Ahsoka yelped, eyes wide and looking from Cody to Rex to her master and back again. Kaz shrugged sympathetically at her when she was ignored again. And if you're worried about someone being here to watch the fleet, Cody continued, knowing that he was actually going to win this argument and pressing his advantage. Kaz, Ahsoka, and Yularen can manage it fine while we're gone. I can? It was Kaz's turn to yelp in surprise. I don't know how to do that. Trace and Boxer will help you, Cody assured him. And you'll have Yularen there as well. And Hap? All you'll need to do is handle the transmissions to the Council. Kaz relaxed. Okay, yeah, I could probably manage that. Can we just pause a second and answer the Padawan's question? Ahsoka interrupted, arms crossed and fixing them all with a glare. Rex sighed and took pity on her. Cody has the Force. Ahsoka gaped at him. Oh! She regained her composure and nodded. Thank you, Rex. No problem, he said with a smirk. I can see I am outvoted, Obi-Wan said ruefully, hand motioning in the air. Very well, Anakin. After you are captured, myself, Cody, and Captain Rex will come to your rescue and capture the Count in the process. I still don't like playing the bait, Anakin said around a long sigh. We established why it has to be you already, Anakin. Obi-Wan's tone of voice held just a hint of long suffering. I know, but still, Anakin settled into his pout some more. Even if he didn't like it, he could agree that he made spectacular bait. Hey, next time we'll think of a plan where you can fly your starfighter in and blow the place up, Kaz said in an attempt to cheer him up. I like the way you think, kid, Anakin grinned over at him. That's always the plan already, Ahsoka pointed out with an annoyed look. That was literally what you just did, Master. She's got a point, sir, Rex said with a smirk. Yeah, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it, Anakin said with a cavalier shrug. Cody barely stopped himself from snapping that it was most certainly broken, as he had lost his droid with all the Republic's sensitive data on it last time. Obi-Wan looked over at him, sensing some of Cody's internal conflict but didn't comment, knowing Cody's thoughts on the subject very well. They'd had a brief argument already over Skywalker, and neither of them were keen on having another one. Cody firmly wanted to leave it at agreeing to disagree and say nothing more on the subject. Council has sent over the coordinates to Dooku's ship. Obi-Wan got them back on track once again. I already had Hap send it over to Admiral Yularen. Great, Anakin nodded. His lips twisted in a wry expression. Now how are we going to make me look like bait? Send you out in a crippled shuttle? Ahsoka suggested. We can even give you fake orders that say you're on your way to Coruscant for some meeting with the Chancellor or something. You do that a lot anyway, it wouldn't be weird. That could work, Anakin said with an approving hum. I do kind of do that a lot now that you mention it. He'd probably even agree to send us a genuine communication, so we don't have to fake it. I can ask him. That's a good idea, General, Cody said, mind spinning over the plan. I'm sure you can do some minor sabotage to the shuttle's engines that would blend right in as a common malfunction as well. You should probably go unarmed, Obi-Wan suggested with a slight wince. There's no way they'll believe they captured you otherwise, not without a fight. And if you engage Dooku, there's every likelihood that he would just kill you without taking you captive. I could take him, Anakin immediately asserted. I've gotten way better since the last time I fought him. It's only been 10 months since then, Anakin, Obi-Wan admonished gently. That's plenty of time, Anakin said with a jovial grin, waving away Obi-Wan's concern. I've been working hard, and all these campaigns have helped too. I'd be fine. Be that as it may, Obi-Wan diplomatically answered. I'd rather not leave the plan to chance. Anakin scowled but let the point stand. All right, fine. No weapons. How are we going to board the ship undetected? Cody asked. That's why I wanted to go alone, Obi-Wan reiterated. I was going to spacewalk. One body in a suit is extremely difficult for ship sensors to detect. Cody's displeasure radiated out from him in the Force. That was your plan? Float defenselessly in the void of space, hope they don't spot you, and waltz right in the door? He scowled. Brilliant, sir. Obi-Wan rolled his eyes. It would have been fine, Cody. Cody raised one skeptically judgmental eyebrow. Obi-Wan folded like wet, flimsy paper. Oh, all right, fine. You win. You win. It was a terrible plan. Happy? Ecstatic, Cody deadpanned. Obi-Wan scoffed, looking like a bird with ruffled feathers. Yes, well, anyway, if we can't do that, we need a new plan. Any suggestions? Anakin was looking at his master and Cody in a stunned sort of shock. I can't believe you got him to change his mind. Can we focus on the task at hand, please? Obi-Wan said snippily. Cody turned his face away to hide his smirk. Obi-Wan was not graceful in defeat at all. He sort of loved that about him. Yes, sir. That wasn't a totally terrible plan, Kaz pointed out and winced when Cody leveled his displeased look at him. Master Obi-Wan was right. The ship's sensors wouldn't detect a life form that small unless they'd been specifically calibrated for search and rescue or something similar. 3 people would still be small enough to fly under their default settings. Rex looked like he'd swallowed something sour. I have to spacewalk? Again? How are we going to get off the ship? Cody asked the obvious question. He didn't like this plan, but the cadet had a point. With my shuttle, Anakin said easily. I can break it in a way that makes it easy to fix in a hurry. That way we can just head to the cargo bay and fly out. So let me get this straight, Ahsoka started, giving them all a skeptical look. Sky Guy's gonna take a ride on a broken shuttle without his lightsaber, strategically strand himself in Dooku's path, get captured, then Rex, Commander Cody, and Master Obi-Wan are going to spacewalk to the ship, punch Dooku hard in the face, kidnap him, and fly off into the sunset? Well, when you say it with that tone of voice, it sounds ridiculous, Anakin said with an eye roll. It is ridiculous, Cody supplied blandly. Almost as ridiculous as putting tanks on asteroids, or walking down space eel-infested tunnels, Rex retorted, giving Cody a significant look. Two could play at that game after all. Yeah, all right, point. All of our plans are crazy, Kaz said with a lazy shrug. Why should this one be any different? Cody sighed despairingly. I had hoped you would never learn our bad habits. Kaz patted Cody's shoulder comfortingly. It's okay, Cody. Cody, I at least learned how to ask for help. Cody looked at the cadet from the corner of his eye. I'll take it, I guess. Obi-Wan shook his head fondly at them. Well, it's decided. Anakin will play bait in a crippled shuttle. Cody, Rex, and I will spacewalk to the ship, sneak aboard, free Anakin, capture Dooku, then take the shuttle back out to freedom. All the while, the Padawans and Admiral Yularen will keep the fleet running in our absence, as well as launch an assault on Dooku's ship. Did I miss anything? Nope, sounds about right, Obi-Wan, Anakin said with an easy shrug. I like that extra bit about attacking Dooku's ship. Good idea. Think you got it all, sir, Cody answered, looking like he smelled something foul. Honestly, he hated every inch of this plan, but if it worked, boy would it work. Anakin, Cody, and I will head back to the Resolute with you and Rex, Obi-Wan said, pushing to his feet, the others following his lead. He smiled at Ahsoka. Ahsoka, do you mind staying here with Kaz to help with the 212th? I'm sure Yularen can handle the 501st on his own, Ahsoka grinned. Not at all, Master Obi-Wan. I'd love to stay and help. Kaz raced around the table to stand next to Ahsoka. She grinned at him and threw an arm around his shoulders. Kaz beamed out at them proudly. We'll make sure nothing catches on fire, Master. Yes, please, Obi-Wan winced, the incident with the thermal detonator dancing through his head. See that you do. And be ready. You're leading the assault on the ship. Also, we might need an evac in a hurry. We will, Master. Kaz nodded seriously, sharing a look with Ahsoka. Anakin looked at them both, eyes turning worried. I feel like I should separate you two from my own sanity. Rex smirked wickedly. Ah, come on, General, what's there to be worried about? Anakin narrowed his eyes at his captain. Plenty. They'll be fine, Cody interrupted as they all filed out of the conference room. Kaz is responsible. He'll make sure things don't get too out of hand. He gave Kaz a significant look over his shoulder. Won't you, kid? Kaz nodded earnestly, walking next to Ahsoka, her arm having slipped off his shoulders. Yes, sir. Hey, I'm the most senior Padawan, Ahsoka said petulantly. Shouldn't that be my job? No, Rex, Cody, and Anakin chorused. Ahsoka glared at them and crossed her arms. Ugh, whatever. I have confidence in your ability to maintain order, Ahsoka. Obi-Wan smiled over at her. I'm sure it will be fine. The 212th is hardly the 50 after all. Hey, Anakin yelped. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all, Anakin, Obi-Wan replied with a sigh and a shake of his head. Nothing at all. Setting up Anakin as bait surprisingly went off without a hitch. He was spotted and captured in short order. The fleet trailed Dooku's ship, waiting for it to drop out of hyperspace and put him in good position for Obi-Wan and Anakin to turn the tables and drag him back to Coruscant in chains. Kaz and Ahsoka had settled into the negotiator without a single issue, Captain Trace, Commander Boxer, and the admin staff more than happy to assist them as needed. Cody and Obi-Wan had requested regular reports be sent to them on the Resolute as they prepared for their spacewalk with Rex. As it stood now, Obi-Wan, Cody, and Rex were all gathered in the hangar bay, their gear clustered about them waiting for the signal that the Count's ship had dropped out of hyperspace. Anakin had thought at the last minute to embed a virus in his shuttle so that when the droids interfaced with it, it would upload to Dooku's ship and temporarily short out the hyperdrive, giving his rescuers a chance to board undetected as well as rendering the Count dead in the water. Cody could admit that idea had been a stroke of genius, and he decided that maybe he'd been too harsh with Skywalker, recognizing that his dander was up over Kaz's vision, and it was perhaps a little bit irrational to hold the man accountable for something he hadn't actually done. Skywalker himself, after all, had not attacked Kaz. The vision of the man as a Sith had not even been real, and Cody sent the other general a mental apology for all the negative thoughts he'd been having. Cody would admit to being perhaps a touch overprotective when it came to Kaz, but he figured he was allowed. As was his ad. He was supposed to be protective. You all right over there, Cody? Rex said, breaking into the commander's thoughts. He was sitting on a crate, spacewalk accessories attached, and special helmet in his hands. Their armor could withstand the void of space, but it didn't have the amount of air supply needed for a long spacewalk, so they'd added some equipment to their own armor for the purpose. Obi-Wan had his own special suit that was entirely separate from his usual gear. Cody looked up and smiled at him, aware of Obi-Wan's eyes on him as well. Yeah, sorry, just lost in thought, Cody shrugged. Whoa, out. You were thinking so hard I could hear your brain spinning, Rex asked him, brown eyes lit in curiosity. Ah, just about Kaz's trip to Ilum, Cody answered vaguely. There was no way in hell he was going to tell Rex the full story. He couldn't afford to break the captain's trust in his general. That would not end well. He had a vision, and what he talked about was bothering me. I think I worked it out. Obi-Wan blew out a relieved breath, some tension leaking from his shoulders. Oh, that's good. I was worried about that. A vision? Rex prodded, eyebrows raised hopefully. Yeah, he didn't want me to really spread the details. Just, it scared him, shook him pretty good. You all right? He seemed okay back on the negotiator? Rex asked, concern replacing his curiosity. He's fine now, Cody smiled, relieved and glad that he could say that with confidence. Kaz was indeed fine and had recovered with no issue, true to Obi-Wan's words at late meal that day. Ahsoka said Jedi don't really talk about going to get their crystals, Rex said, motioning through the air with his hand. Kaz told you about it? Not everything, Obi-Wan interjected. Mostly his feelings, impressions, the things he needed to share to work through them. That's quite normal. But you're right, the details? No, most Jedi do not share those. Rex nodded, making an affirmative noise. He didn't comment further, staying quiet and turning his eyes to Obi-Wan. He looked the Jedi over carefully, obviously thinking hard about something. He spoke after a moment. So, General, what made you finally paint your armor? A slow smirk spread on Obi-Wan's face. Well, Captain, I just thought it was long past time. I couldn't be the odd man out forever. Why does that only feel like half an answer? Rex narrowed his eyes, expression shrewd. It was a complete answer, Vod, Cody said with an eye roll. He sent a pointed look at Rex. What made you finally paint yours? There wasn't any finally about it, Rex retorted quickly, smirking. He leaned forward, palms planted on his knees. I did it as soon as I got back from Rishi. I just waited to tell you as a surprise. Cody grinned up at him from his sprawl on the floor at Obi-Wan's feet, the general sitting behind him and to his left on a crate of his own. I'm honored. You should be. I think we all are. Obi-Wan infused a touch of seriousness into the situation. He smiled over at Rex, blue eyes genuine. Alitorisha taldin, Rex. Ay, forintai, General. Rex swallowed around the lump that tried to lodge itself in his throat. He chuckled and grinned at Cody. You've got a proper little clan growing here, Cody. Sure do, Cody acknowledged bluntly, much to Rex's shock. You have anyone you want to add? Not yet. Rex blew out a surprised breath, not having expected Cody to come right out and acknowledge things. He shouldn't have been startled by it, that was just Cody's way, but I have my eye on one or two. A snippy little Padawan and a reckless pilot? Cody suggested with a smirk. Maybe, Rex hedged. I'll allow it. Oh, thanks, Rex rolled his eyes. How gracious of you. Well, if I'm Clan Allure, it's my prerogative, isn't it? Cody crossed his arms and looked at Rex smugly, delighting in the cut-off little choke Obi-Wan made at that revelation also. It's my illic you're all using. Rex opened and closed his mouth a few times before shrugging ruefully. Yay, all right, you win that one. Clan Allure? Obi-Wan repeated, voice a little high, turning wide blue eyes onto Cody. Cody looked up at him from his position on the ground, leaning comfortingly into Obi-Wan's knee by his head, heedless of the spacesuit. Yeah. That okay? Yes, Obi-Wan cleared his throat and nodded, expression solemn. Yes, it is, he smiled, right hand coming down to clasp Cody's shoulder. It suits you, Cody. Rex was gaping at them. I don't believe it. What? Cody raised a confused eyebrow over at his brother. You told him, Rex hissed, leaning closer so as to not be overheard. There was no one near them, but he knew this topic required extreme discretion. Understanding dawned in Cody's eyes and he grinned brightly. I did, yeah. Probably best not to have this discussion in the open hangar bay, Obi-Wan interrupted swiftly, worry creasing the skin around his eyes. He dropped his hand from Cody's shoulder, mindful of how that might look now. Yes, sir? Rex nodded, but he couldn't stifle the grin on his face. I'm happy for you. Both of you. Thanks, Rexica. Cody looked relieved, and he relaxed back into the crate, shifting his shoulders so they were no longer touching Obi-Wan's legs. Where he was sitting was already borderline enough, best not to add fuel. You must be the soul of discretion, Captain, Obi-Wan warned, nerves about their upcoming mission intermingling with his constant anxiety over his and Cody's relationship being discovered. He would not change his mind, but that did not mean their chosen course was without difficulty. I will be. Hot, Ija, hot, Rex answered without a moment's hesitation. I wouldn't do anything to put Cody in danger. Or you. You're Alliot now twice over. Obi-Wan smiled, relief finally settling in his chest. Origete vorentai. They lapsed into silence after that, each of them going over their gear again and again, checking and rechecking. This was the longest spacewalk all three of them would have ever gone on, and the idea of having nothing between them and the void of space besides the thin material of Obi-Wan's suit and their armor was a little bit intimidating. Cody and Obi-Wan bolstered each other through their bond, Cody with his dogged determination to succeed, and Obi-Wan with his certainty that the Force would provide and watch over them. Cody was reminded of the fact that the Jedi Order was a religious institution, and that following the code was following that religion. He'd been learning about it more and more the farther along Kaz got in his training. Cody was fascinated by it, but the deeper he dug into their theology, the more he realized it was not for him. It affirmed his choice to not become a Jedi. He knew with conviction that he had a different path to walk, and so did Obi-Wan. The only one who constantly teased him about it was Kaz, but the cadet was far from serious in his assertion. He just enjoyed teasing Cody. Cody looked up at Rex, noticing how his Vod kept turning his helmet over and over in his hands and held in a sigh. Rex did that when he was worried or agitated. Cody could sense his unease through the Force, but not clearly enough to discern if it was the impending spacewalk or waiting for word from his general that was making Rex twitchy. Cody prodded at the fishing line thin thread that connected him to Rex and tried to impress confidence on the other man. Rex looked up from his helmet, the movement sudden and sharp. Falcon, that you? Lek, sorry. You're twitchy, Cody said with a sheepish wave of his hand. Rex rolled his eyes and stood, setting his helmet down on the crate he'd been using as a seat, and walked the 2 steps over to Cody, sliding down to sit on the commander's right side. He grabbed Cody's arm and looped it over his own shoulder, sidling up to Cody easily. He kept his right hand around Cody's wrist and wrapped his other one around Cody's kneecap. Rex looked up and noticed Kenobi watching them with a faintly amused look on his face. Rex grinned up at him. You're welcome to join us, sir. Oh, I am I? Obi-Wan asked with a single raised eyebrow. Yeah, Cody offered, tightening his grip on Rex. Obi-Wan slid down from his perch on the crate and into Cody's other side, shoulder brushing companionably with his commanders. He pressed closer, sealing them together from shoulder to knee. I'll take you up on that. JT, Cody said softly, swinging his arm up and around Obi-Wan's shoulder. He smiled at his general, then slanted his eyes over to Rex. His grin widened. I think I could get used to this. I don't think we can leave the ship, Obi-Wan. On the contrary, Obi-Wan said with a smirk, leaning into Cody's side. We will just kidnap the good captain. We have Kaz. He's outnumbered, Rex laughed, the sound buzzing through Cody's ribs. Kidnap me? Good plan, Cody nodded. I approve. Rex just rolled his eyes and snuggled closer to his Orivod, drawing comfort from the steadfast presence of Cody next to him. Hey, what's this? Fives, one of the new shinies from Rishi Moon, had wandered into the hangar. He came over, having spotted his captain in the familiar form of Commander Cody. A camp out and we aren't invited? Rex just smirked up at Fives from the floor. Sorry, Fives, command staff only. Go bug your squad if you need a hug. Fives' gaze sharpened. He turned to look over his shoulder and shouted, Get over here. Ah, Kark, Rex muttered, realizing his mistake too late. What the hell are you shouting about now, Fives? Echo grumbled as he wandered over. His eyes widened when he spotted the 3 on the floor, then they narrowed. Hey, Captain, no fair. You can't hog Commander Cody all to yourself, sir. That's what I said. Fives didn't waste another second, instead diving down and sitting right in the space between Rex's legs. Budge up, sir. Wha, Fives, Rex squawked, but did as asked. Hey, wait for me, Fives. Echo planted himself right in front of Cody like he belonged there, the commander making a surprised sound. Well then, Obi-Wan blew out an astounded laugh. He smiled at the 2 newcomers. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I'm General Kenobi and you are? These 2 troublemakers are half of Domino Squad, Rex said, giving them both a disapproving look. That didn't seem to stop him from curling an arm around Fives' waist, though. Fives, sir! Fives gave Obi-Wan a jaunty wave. He pointed at his batchmate. That's Echo. Ah, yes, of course, you were the squad from Rishi Moon, Obi-Wan said, voice light and relaxed. I'm glad to see you're settling in. Torrent is treating us well, Echo agreed. He leaned his shoulders back more solidly into Cody's chest. I just wanted to say thank you, again, Commander, for saving Cut Up and Heavy. Like I would have done anything else, Cody said, nudging Echo's ankle with his boot. Hey, what the Kark? Heavy came barging around the corner, caught up with him, and when he spotted them, he put his hands on his hips and glared. "Why wasn't I invited?" "None of you were invited," Rex growled under his breath, manfully ignoring Obi-Wan's snickering as he did. The general seemed far too fascinated with what was happening around him to be annoyed by it. "Hope you don't mind more company, General," Heavy said, blithely settling in on Obi-Wan's other side. Obi-Wan looked startled but didn't stop him. "Ah, no, not at all. This is the worst place for this," Cut-Up grouched as he leaned up against Rex's other side. "The floor is cold. No one said you have to stay," Rex pointed out, sounding aggrieved. Cody just smirked at him smugly. "What's the matter, Rex? Can't handle the taste of your own medicine?" "I am just fine," Rex told him blandly. "Vodique are hard work, aren't they?" Cody continued, voice teasing. "They imprint on you like little love pups. It's terrible." "Yes, sir," Fives chirped, snuggling back into Rex and smirking up at Cody. "That's what I said. Don't think the captain liked your opinion, Fives," Heavy observed mildly. He'd snuggled right up to Obi-Wan without a shred of hesitance, knee closest to the Jedi bent up, pressed to his side. Obi-Wan could barely feel his body heat through the spacesuit, as it was designed to keep out the cold from the void of space, and it dampened nearly all environmental input as a result. Cody was strong next to him, the commander's arm still over his shoulders, now much more relaxed, fingers brushing the top of Obi-Wan's chest and his arm. Cody was taking full advantage of the convenient cover Domino Squad had provided to cuddle his partner. "Yeah, don't think that bothers him," Cut-Up said, leaning around Rex to share a commiserating look with Echo. He smiled over at Cody. "Thanks again for saving me from that eel, Commander." "I didn't get a chance to say it before we left. I would have done it for any one of our Vode, Cut-Up," Cody told him, toned gentle like he used when speaking to Kaz sometimes. Obi-Wan was reminded that these troopers were much younger than Cody, and even Rex, barely older than Kaz. Vodique, indeed, he thought with a mental grimace. Cody looked to be mid-20s for a human, as did Rex, but Domino Squad appeared to be barely 18. If that. They were young, pushed out of training on Kamino far too soon. Cody had gone on a short, angry rant about it during the week they had been searching for Grievous, and Obi-Wan had wholeheartedly agreed with him. Now, faced with the evidence himself, he was furious that such a thing could even occur. They were far too young. He realized that the troopers grew up and matured much faster than a baseline human, both in mind and body, but these were still young. Like Kaz. They were not ready for war yet. "Yeah, but I was the one you saved, sir," Cut-Up insisted, a mild case of hero worship shining out of his eyes. "He has a point, Cody." Obi-Wan gave his commander a little nudge. Cody looked down at him with a raised eyebrow. "Oh, he does?" "Yes," Obi-Wan replied blandly, hiding a smile in his beard. "You're welcome, Cut-Up." "And Heavy," Cody said with a sigh. He pulled Obi-Wan a little tighter to his side. Really, he loved this annoying man. He pressed that feeling down their bond and smiled when it was sent back to him in kind. "Rex has been telling us all about you, General," Fives piped up. He grinned over at Obi-Wan, about how you saved Kaz from the Longnecks and that you're teaching him to be a Jedi. "Oh, he has he? Only good things, I hope?" Obi-Wan smiled back, voice mild. "Oh, yes, sir," Heavy said from Obi-Wan's left. He bumped his knee companionably into Obi-Wan's elbow. "He said you adopted the cadet." "That true?" "After a fashion," Obi-Wan allowed, understanding now why Domino Squad had shown zero hesitation in joining them on the floor of the hangar. He resolved to ask Cody later if the 212th ever did this. He was intensely curious. "I took him as my Padawan learner. The Jedi guy Balmanda?" Echo said with a definitive nod. A startled laugh blurted from Cody's lips. "Hold on, what? Who told you that?" "Commander Tano," Echo answered with a shrug, twisting around to look at Cody. "Did she really?" Obi-Wan asked in surprise. He turned a sly look onto Rex. "And who gave her that idea, I wonder?" "I have no idea what you mean, General," Rex replied, blank-faced. "No, indeed, Obi-Wan. Let him get away with it," shaking his head. Their comlinks chose that moment to go off. Obi-Wan reached down and answered his with a sigh, the only one of them with a free hand at the moment. "General Kenobi here." "General," Admiral Yularen. "The enemy ship has dropped out of hyperspace. Your mission is green, sir." "Copy that, Admiral." "We will depart shortly." "Godspeed, sir." "Thank you, Admiral." "Kenobi out." "All right, everybody up," Cody said as soon as the transmission cut, urging them all forward with his arms and mild nudges with the Force. There was much grumbling and groaning, but Domino Squad climbed to their feet, helping their older brothers and the general in turn. Without being asked, Heavy Fives and Echo grabbed their special transparent steel helmets and helped Cody, Rex, and Obi-Wan secure them properly. Cut Up went around checking suit seals and doing function diagnostics, efficiently prepping them all for their spacewalk. Their weapons were handed to them and secured as well, and the clips all double-checked, even Obi-Wan's lightsabers, as he had Anakin's as well. Next, their jetpacks were set and locked to their backs. Fuel levels and controls checked and double-checked too. Domino's squad fluttered around them, suiting them up faster than they could have done themselves, and Obi-Wan found himself absurdly grateful to them for their kindness. Obi-Wan smiled as thanks at Echo, giving him the hand sign for all clear. Cody had been teaching him, and Obi-Wan could now give out basic commands and say short sentences. He had a feeling it was about to be extremely useful. "All systems green, sirs," Kutup reported, nodding over the readouts on the datapad that came with the suits and the armor attachments. "You're clear for spacewalk. May the Force be with you and Jay Tekara Vode. May the Force be with you also." Obi-Wan gave him a short bow of his head. "Retorshimai, Vodaik," Rex said, fond exasperation evident even through the vocoder in the helmet. "Don't break anything while I'm gone," Fives gasped in mock affront. "Oh, sir? We'd never." Rex rolled his eyes but didn't comment, walking towards the shimmering ray shield that separated the hangar from the void of space. Out of it, and just at the very edges of his vision, he could see Dooku's ship. They were just barely out of sensor range. 1 millimeter closer and they would have been detected. Cody and Obi-Wan moved up next to him, and the airlock shield engaged behind them, cutting them off from the rest of the hangar. He looked over his shoulder and saw Echo give them the thumbs up, his batchmates waving enthusiastically at them, and then the outer ray shield vanished, tugging the three of them out into space with a gut-tilting lurch. Jetpacks firing in tandem, Obi-Wan led the flight to Dooku's cruiser. All around them, the vacuum of space pressed in. Stars glittered in the distance, some larger and brighter than others. Steadily, the shape of Count Dooku's ship grew larger and larger, the firefly glow of their jetpack engines propelling them easily through the dark void of the galaxy. Obi-Wan felt out with the Force, brushing up against Cody, getting a comforting pulse in return, and then along the blue water feeling of Rex's Force signature, feeling the captain's bravery and determination easily. The ship got closer and closer until it took up the entirety of their field of vision. Obi-Wan had the fanciful thought that they were like bugs on a tree, small and insignificant compared to the massive construction looming over them. Following the schematics displaying on the HUD in his helmet, Obi-Wan led them around to the emergency airlock, part of him laughing internally at doing this for a second time. The last time he'd snuck aboard a separatist warship, it had been through the emergency airlock as well. Using the Force, he disengaged the magnetic seals and slipped into the boarding tube, Rex and Cody just behind him. As they did, they disengaged their jetpacks, using the walls of the tube to move forward until Obi-Wan came to the inner seal, the outer one shutting behind him automatically. He opened that one as well, and suddenly they were inside the ship and within the field of its artificial gravity. The whirling vertigo that came from going from 0G to regular G in the space of a breath passed quickly, and Obi-Wan peeled himself out of his spacesuit, Cody and Rex dropping their spacewalking attachments as well, as they were not conducive to stealth work, special transparent steel helmets included. They had two separate destinations. Rex would head to the cargo bay and find Anakin's shuttle and secure it, while Obi-Wan and Cody would find Anakin himself and be responsible for the capture of Dooku. Rex had not liked being left out of that, but he was shot down by virtue of not having the Force. Cody was allowed because Cody was their secret weapon, and he could defend himself against the Sith better than Rex could with just a pair of blasters. Rex did not like it. Hated it, in fact, but he also understood that they would need to fly out of the ship in a red-hot hurry, and having their getaway vehicle prepped and running was essential. "All right," Obi-Wan said, keeping his voice low. They were still inside the airlock, not quite into the ship proper, but Obi-Wan did not want to give them away prematurely. 1 hour, Rex. If we aren't in the hangar, you leave and join up with the 7th Sky Corps for their attack. Clear? Rex clenched his jaw but nodded. Yes, sir. Good. Let's go. Obi-Wan placed his hand over the door controls and looked over at Cody. Time to disappear in the Force, Cody. Here goes nothing. Cody closed his eyes and drew his shields down tight, pressing and molding them until they were a perfectly glassy mirror, reflecting back his environment and concealing himself completely. Rex shivered. Criff, I hate it when you do that. Yes, Obi-Wan choked out a wheeze, fighting the urge to yank on their bond. It felt strangled in his head, and the only thing keeping him from doing something foolish was the fact that Cody was right in front of him. He was thankful he'd thought to brief Kaz and Ahsoka on this before they left, knowing Anakin's Padawan would keep his own from panicking. That's a terrible sensation. I know, I'm sorry. Cody winced but didn't change it. He squared his shoulders. I'm ready. Let's go. Obi-Wan just nodded and keyed open the door. It slid wide with a hiss, and they stepped through, Cody first, eyes scanning the hallway, then waving Rex and Obi-Wan out. Rex signed a farewell at them and took off down the opposite hall, eyes on the small map in his comlink. He and Cody did not have their regular helmets, as they did not interface with the spacewalk equipment, so they'd been left behind. They still had the rest of their usual armor, the only difference being oxygen seals had been added to the gaps to prevent air from escaping. Cody crept down the halls behind Obi-Wan, dodging droid patrols and sensor arrays. There were no cameras on the ship. The Separatists were unconcerned with the Republic boarding their ships, it seemed. Likely, after this mission, that would change, and these tactics would no longer work. Cody resolved to make the most of it while they could. While Cody could still feel Obi-Wan in the Force perfectly fine, he knew his general could not say the same, so it was up to Cody to make sure they stayed coordinated. He followed every move Obi-Wan made, keeping in tune with his intentions and thoughts. It took them the better part of 15 minutes to find a cell block, and they had almost been spotted by patrols, more times than Cody was comfortable with. Once they were inside, Cody let out an annoyed sound. "Why don't these cells have windows?" Cody grumbled as they walked down the narrow catwalk between the doors. Obi-Wan huffed a quiet laugh. "Because if they did, that would be too easy." Obi-Wan paused, turning in a circle. "He's in one of these four. I can't get any closer than that." Cody nodded, then reached out and triggered a door. It whooshed open to reveal an empty cell. He and Obi-Wan shared a shrug. Cody closed that door, then reached for one on the opposite side. Two Nikto looked up at them from the floor, but they were decidedly not Anakin Skywalker. "You are not the prisoners we're looking for," Obi-Wan said mildly, calmly closing the door like nothing at all had happened. He walked a few steps down the hall and hit the next one. Hissing, the door slid up into the ceiling to reveal a dimly lit interior. Obi-Wan smirked and stepped inside, knowing for sure he had gotten the right one this time. Cody followed and frowned, looking around. Suddenly, a shape fell from the ceiling. Shorty just reacted. And you... Swinging out hard, Cody connected with the being's midsection, and while they were bent over gasping for breath, he seized them, wrenching their arm behind their back, one arm over their throat, and yanked them towards his chest, pinning them. "Cody, don't!" Obi-Wan hissed loudly, panic in his voice. Cody blinked, realizing the squirming figure in his arms was General Skywalker. Abruptly, he let him go, taking a few hurried steps back. "Oh, Criff, sir, I'm sorry. What the hell?" Anakin turned and looked at Cody, coughing a little from Cody's arm around his neck. He goggled at Cody like he couldn't believe his eyes. "I can't even sense what the... How?" Later, Obi-Wan interrupted. He handed Anakin his lightsaber. "We need to go." "Yeah." Anakin took his saber, rubbing his neck with his other hand. He shook his head wryly. "Well, now I know what Obi-Wan meant by calling you sneaky." Criff. "Ah, yes, sir," Cody said, still wincing over the fact that he'd nearly strangled a Jedi. "Where's Dooku?" "His personal quarters," Anakin answered. "Yup, on deck one." "Where's Rex?" "Getting the shuttle ready," Obi-Wan said as they started walking down the hall, Anakin leading the way. "You made him the getaway driver?" "Nice," Anakin said with a short laugh. "I bet he loved that." "Oh, yeah, he was thrilled." Cody rolled his eyes sarcastically. Moving swiftly, they made their way from the prison level to deck one, and the closer they got, the worse the unsettling feeling in Cody's gut became. The Force was pushing at him, letting him know that things were about to not go to plan. Jaw-clenching, Cody resigned himself to it and pulled his DC-15A from his clip on his waist and settled it in his hands. Obi-Wan looked over at him when he heard the sound of the latch releasing, raised an eyebrow and then sighed heavily, pulling his own weapon from his belt. Anakin looked askance at them but copied the movement, sensing that he'd better or he would regret it. Cody felt a chill move down his spine as they stepped out of the lift onto deck one. The hallway in front of him was strangely dark even though the lights were on full. Fingers twitching around his rifle, Cody led the way down the hall, the air getting colder and colder as they went. He felt frozen, like he'd been dropped into the depths of the Kamino Sea. Before his eyes, the lights became dimmer and dimmer, the blackness on the walls and ceiling oozing out into the very air. It was then he realized he was sensing the dark side fully for the first time. Unsettlingly, it felt familiar, and it tried to twine itself around his legs like a pet. Cody recoiled, pushing it away harshly, slamming his interior shields down with such strength that Obi-Wan and Anakin both jumped, feeling something happen in the Force but having no idea what it was. Cody didn't spare him a thought, trying to swat the cloying darkness away from himself. He succeeded, but barely, and stopped in front of the door that led to Dooku's quarters. Swallowing, he looked over at Obi-Wan and Anakin and nodded. Obi-Wan reached out and triggered the door, he and Anakin stepping inside first, Cody waiting a beat, then following on silent feet. He set his blaster to stun, ready to take the shot that would incapacitate the Count and allow them to bring him in unharmed. When Cody crossed the threshold into the room, the howling pressure of the dark side caused him to stagger. His knees bent under the weight of it, and he bared his teeth and pushed back with every ounce of his stubborn will. It hissed at him, backing off to prowl around him, waiting for a moment of weakness to pounce. Cody felt like he was being hunted. He figured that he was. Obi-Wan opened the door to the Count's inner rooms to reveal the man himself sitting on the floor in meditation. Dooku opened his eyes lazily, gazing up at Obi-Wan from his meditation mat, entirely unconcerned. He was completely focused on Anakin and Obi-Wan, not even looking past them at Cody. "Ah, Obi-Wan Kenobi." Dooku's voice was smooth and slow as he spoke. "Hello, Grand Padawan. I see you've managed to free Skywalker. Whatever would he do without you around to bail him out of trouble?" "I would be more concerned with your own well-being, Grandmaster," Obi-Wan tacked on the title with all the appropriate sarcasm it deserved. "We have you surrounded." Dooku raised an eyebrow. Do you know? 2 pathetic Jedi does not an overwhelming force make. I think you might be surprised," Anakin said, walking further into the small room. As they bantered, Obi-Wan and Anakin cleared the doorway and blocked Dooku's view of it simultaneously, allowing Cody to slip in easily. The commander had clamped down on his force signature tighter than he had in his entire life, willing it out into the very air that no one saw him. He wasn't there. His face was a mirror, nothing to see. Move your eyes along. He did it so well, in fact, that neither Anakin nor Obi-Wan had noticed him work his way behind the Count. He raised his blaster behind the Separatist leader's head, ready to stun him. Everything would have been fine if the dark side had not chosen that moment to attack him. It screamed, wild and loud and long, and dived for Cody in his split second of distraction. Cody snarled and shoved it back, but that was enough for his concentration to slip and for Dooku to bolt to his feet and spin around, shocked yellow eyes fixed on Cody. Dooku did not stay surprised for long, and in an instant, his lightsaber was in his hand, swinging straight for Cody. Dropping all pretense, Cody let his force signature roar back to life, its sunburst power sending the darkness shrieking away from him. Cody reached for the force and pushed, launching Dooku bodily across the room just before the red lightsaber made contact with his stomach and slamming the Count harshly into the opposite wall. Cody didn't wait for Obi-Wan and Anakin to figure out what was going on, and he hurled himself at the Sith, heedless of the plasma hot blade the Count was wielding. Expertly, he twisted to the side, avoiding a straight slashing attack, and got right up under the reach of Dooku's saber in a move that still worked on Obi-Wan, despite the amount of practice against it the Jedi had. Dooku had no such advantage. Cody's fist connected with his face, breaking the Sith's nose in a clean hit and a gruesome spray of blood. Not waiting for Dooku to recover, Cody lashed out and grabbed the man's sword wrist, wrenching it and dropping the red blade into his own hands. The moment he wrapped his fingers around the hilt, the force sung with rightness. That spurred the Sith into action, and in a fit of rage, he aimed both hands at Cody and hit the commander near point blank with force lightning. Cody screamed, thrown away in convulsions, barely having the presence of mind to clamp his grip down on the saber he had stolen, a pressing urge from the force powering his hand. Dooku, it seemed, cared more about his own life than his weapon, lashing out with an impressive wave of force power, flinging Obi-Wan and Anakin away, and triggering a hidden trapdoor in the floor of his quarters. In a flash, he disappeared down it, and Anakin, the first one to his feet, jumped right in after him. "Anakin, wait!" Obi-Wan called fruitlessly. "Blast!" He pushed to his feet and ran over to Cody, crouching over him, hands on the commander's shoulders. "Cody, are you all right?" Cody groaned and levered himself upright, shaking off the last of the twitching. He rubbed his forehead. "Yeah, I'm fine." He pushed to his feet and staggered to the door, stolen lightsaber still in his hand, the blade deactivated. "Simone, we need to cut him off." "Yes, I agree, but no time, worry later," Cody snapped, running down the now fully light hallway. "I hate it when you're right," Obi-Wan grumbled, sprinting after Cody, his own unlit weapon in his hand. Of course, they ran into battle droids on the way there. Not even thinking about it, Cody lit Dooku's blade and started cutting them down, having left his blaster in the Count's quarters. Obi-Wan did a double take but kept his thoughts to himself, igniting his own blue lightsaber and jumping into the fray. Cody spun his stolen lightsaber in elegant sweeping arcs, finding himself enjoying its curved handle in the way that made it easier for him to go from movement to movement like a flowing river. He'd used both Obi-Wan's and Kaz's lightsabers before, but none of them fit in his hand like this one. This one tugged at him in the Force, and vaguely remembered images from his dreams of a white lightsaber with a curved hilt bubbled up into his mind. As naturally as breathing, Cody deflected blaster bolts back at the screaming droids, bisecting them when they got too close and feeling bold, threw a few with the Force into the Durasteel walls so hard they burst into pieces. Obi-Wan and Cody carved a bloody swath through the ship, and as they went, Cody was beginning to notice a strange, high-pitched wailing sound. The closer they got to the hangar bay, the louder it seemed to get. Halfway there, the ship lurched, and suddenly, Cody could sense Kaz much closer than before. The fleet had arrived and was attacking the ship as planned. They needed to hurry before they went down with it. Bursting through the doors of the hangar, Cody and Obi-Wan moved as one, blades whirling, cutting down droids, pushing out in tandem with the Force, sending the rest flying out into the walls, and then realizing that Dooku's solar sailor was in the air and taking off. "Blast!" Obi-Wan cursed, sprinting after the ship, Cody on his heels. Anakin fell from the ceiling just as the ship escaped the hangar. Ah, crap. "Hey!" Rex poked his head out from the docking ramp of the shuttle and waved at them. "Get in and we'll catch him! Go, go, go!" Cody shouted as he sprinted towards Rex and his shuttle, lightsaber still lit and bouncing with his pounding steps. He was the first one aboard, Obi-Wan and Anakin scrambling in after him, jumping into the ship just as Rex started the takeoff sequence. Anakin made a beeline for the cockpit, settling into the pilot's seat with ease. Cody deactivated the lightsaber in his hand and clipped it to his belt, Obi-Wan copying his movements. They both went to the cockpit, buckling into the two very small passenger seats, securing the safety mechanisms. Cody felt warning flaring at him in the Force and winced. He somehow just knew they were going to crash. "Hang on," Anakin said, yanking the yoke as the ship shuddered from enemy fire. "Rex, shoot them down. I'm trying." Rex snapped through clenched teeth. He suddenly crowed with triumph. "That's one downed. There's another one." Shaking, the ship jerked and jolted, throwing them roughly against the bulkheads and instrument panels. "Ah, Criff. We're hit. Did you hit Dooku at least?" Anakin growled, hands clenched around the stick, desperately trying to keep them from plummeting to the planet below. "I think so," Rex said, hands flying over the controls, trying to help his general keep the ship steady. "We're definitely going to crash." "No, really?" "I hadn't noticed," Anakin said snarkily, teeth grit and shoulders tense with the effort of controlling the ship. "Brace for impact." Bouncing, the ship slammed into the ground, spraying rocks and debris, letting loose an ear-piercing scream of metal shearing. Skidding like a pebble on a lake, the ship careened towards a mountain range, and there was nothing Anakin Skywalker could do to alter its trajectory. With a bone-jarring crack, the ship embedded itself into the rock. For a moment, all they did was sit there and breathe, taking stock of the fact that they were all still alive. Anakin was the first one up and out of his seat, making his way to the still mostly intact docking ramp. Most of the back of the shuttle had been torn off, but the ramp hung in the air limply like a tongue without a bottom jaw. He stepped gingerly down it and jumped lightly to the dirt, looking around. Everything was glittering, the very rocks themselves shining with some kind of crystal in them. It was beautiful, but he didn't have time for beauty. Ahead of him was Dooku's ship, and he could barely see the form of the man himself heading for a cave. "Obi-Wan, I see him." "Come on, he's getting away." Anakin took off after Dooku, trusting his former master, Rex, and Cody to follow him. "Best to not let that happen," Obi-Wan called back, running after Anakin, Rex, and Cody on his heels. They ran a moderate distance to the crash site of Dooku's ship, pausing to take a look around. There wasn't much. Just a pile of glittering rock, the obviously crashed solar sailor that Dooku had escaped on, and the bits of debris associated with a rough landing. Obi-Wan's vague sense of Dooku in the Force was just starting to fade, indicating that they were not far behind the Sith Lord. Anakin inspected it, noting the damage to the engines. "Looks like you did hit him, Rex. The engines on this thing are blown to bits. No way he's leaving the planet in it." "Something tells me that wasn't his plan anyway," Cody said, pointing to a flashing tracking beacon affixed to the hull. "A homing device," Obi-Wan observed. He frowned closely at it for just a moment before jumping away with a yelp when a well-placed blaster bolt destroyed it. "Oh, he isn't going to be able to use it now," Rex said smugly, spinning his blaster around his fingers before slotting it expertly back into its holster. Obi-Wan gave him an unimpressed look. "Nice shot. Thanks." Cody rolled his eyes at them and started walking towards the caves. "Let's go. I can sense him inside." "Yeah, he's not the only thing in there," Anakin said as they all stood outside the wide, gaping, dark mouth of the cave. There's a whole bunch of other life forms inside. It's the eel caves all over again, Rex grumbled, following them all down into the cave. Why do I go on missions with you people? Because you'd be bored without us, Rex, Cody said with a smirk. Cody was distracted for a moment when that odd, piercing wail from the ship was back again. He shook his head, trying to dispel it, but only succeeded in lowering the volume. They all jumped the last few meters down, landing with soft thumps into the glittering dirt. Obi-Wan and Anakin lit their lightsabers for light, and Cody shrugged, pulling his stolen blade from his belt and doing the same. Rex cracked a glow stick and gave Cody a very surprised look. How the hells did you get your hands on that thing? Rex exclaimed. Anakin's eyes were round as he looked at Cody for the first time, realizing just whose lightsaber the commander had. Is that Count Dooku's lightsaber? Who else's would it be? Cody shrugged, the red light of the blade wobbling with his motions. The shrieking song from earlier burrowed suddenly into his brain, and Cody winced. It was much louder than before. Looking down at his right hand, Cody understood all at once where that noise was coming from and why he was the only one who could hear it. It was the crystal in the lightsaber. The kyber was calling out to him in pain, like it knew him, like it knew he would end its suffering. Sympathy flooded through him as he realized why, the vague memory of Obi-Wan teaching Kaz where Sith lightsabers came from, bubbling up from the back of his mind. Dooku had committed atrocities to crack the crystal and make it bleed. The kyber's blood turned it red. Cody's eyes slipped closed and he tried to touch the crystal as gently as he knew how, even though he knew his own command of the Force was far from gentle. The crystal yowled, and Cody flinched, but he kept trying, thinking the most soothing thoughts that he could at it, like he would a frightened cadet. Slowly, it started to respond to him, then all at once it latched on, clinging to Cody's Force presence like a scared child. He embraced it back, the wounds running through it clear as day in his mind. On instinct alone, Cody ran his Force presence over it, trying to patch the cracks with his spiking sunburst light, wanting nothing more than to stop its agony. Whatever he did, it worked. The shrieking stopped, the cracks sealed over, the kyber's voice transitioning from a wail of hurt to a low, bass-filled hum. Cody kept pressing until that soothing beat was all he heard. Then he opened his eyes to find Rex, Skywalker, and Obi-Wan gawping at him. Blinking rapidly to clear the spots from his vision, Cody looked at the lightsaber in his hands and barely stopped himself from dropping it. The blade wasn't red anymore. It was pure white. Vod, what the fuck? Rex was the first one to find his voice. Yeah, what he said, Anakin mumbled, eyes roving up and down the blade. I have no idea what I just did, Cody said, his tone and expression defensive, Force presence spiking out a little in his agitation. I don't believe it, Obi-Wan breathed out. He walked over to Cody, marveling at the white blade. You healed the crystal, Cody. I did? Cody's shoulders dropped, some of the tension leaving him. Healing wasn't a bad thing. A bad thing. He probably hadn't used the dark side of the Force this time. Griff, he hoped he hadn't. He was getting tired of accidentally doing that. That's not bad, is it? Heavens, no, Obi-Wan exclaimed, a happy grin making its way to his face. Just the opposite. Well done, Cody. Very well done. Thanks, General. Cody relaxed all the way, the tension bleeding out of him like water through a filter. Finally, he hadn't done something problematic for once. He waved the blade around, delighting in the strange crackling hum it made and the brighter light it now cast along the cave walls. We'd better get moving. We need to find the Count. Quite right, Obi-Wan agreed, turning on his heel and heading deeper into the cave, lightsaber held aloft like a lantern. I don't even know where to start with you anymore, Rex said with an exasperated shake of his head, moving to walk next to his brother. Containing an explosion with the Force, shattering Slick's armor, sensing a separatist attack on a listening post, levitating brothers, killing giant eels, and now? Healing Sith kyber crystals. Cody just rolled his eyes. Do you have a point with all this, Rex? I don't know whether to worry or pat you on the back. When you figure it out, let me know, because I don't know either. Cody answered with a long, drawn-out sigh. You realize, Rex started after they walked for a bit in silence and his sly tone had Cody's hackles up, that this means you have a lightsaber now, right? Pretty sure there's a foundling rule about those things. Osik. Cody felt a sense of dread settle in his gut. He looked at the white lightsaber he had dreamed about and now was holding above his head to light their steps and felt the crystal hum happily at him, like a puppy wagging its tail. Yep, he thought with a grimace, it's mine now. I think there is. It's attached to me now. Rex threw his head back and cackled, causing Obi-Wan and Anakin to turn around and give him an odd look. Rex paid them no mind, instead reaching out to clap a hand on Cody's shoulder. Congratulations, it's a sword. Oh, criff off, Cody grumbled, shrugging Rex's hand from his pauldron. Look out! The shout came from up ahead and had Cody diving over Rex and hurtling them both to the ground as a rock slide was triggered from somewhere in the ceiling. Thunderous sound echoed around them and Cody clipped his new lightsaber to his belt and sheltered Rex as best he could from the cave-in. Cody tried, but he was not able to block all of the rocks, and one struck the side of his head, and his consciousness faded to black. Hey! A shifting, groaning noise greeted Cody as he opened his eyes, blinking into the darkness. He couldn't even see a millimeter in front of his face, and he could feel the weight of the rocks pressing in on top of them. His head was pounding in time with his pulse, and he could feel dried blood caked along the left side of his face. He got perfect. He just sat there for a moment, feeling out with the Force, sensing the strange, sucking darkness that was Dooku, the happily bubbling light that was Kaz in orbit, the shimmering cord that linked him to Obi-Wan, the thin line that led to Rex, and the burning, eye-blinding supernova that was Skywalker. Cody winced and yanked his Force presence back from the other general, having never encountered him quite like that before. He took in a deep breath, did quick inventory of himself, then tried to rouse Rex. Rex? Cody coughed around the dust. Yeah, Rex coughed back. Oh, good, you're conscious, Cody said blithely, blinking his eyes like that might suddenly make the light appear. He thought of reaching for his lightsaber, and then thought better of it. That might just make things worse if it cut through the wrong rock when he turned it on. Anything broken? No, you? Nope, all good. Great, now levitate these rocks off of us already. Jedavad. Do not call me that. Get us out of here and I'll be willing to negotiate. You are in no position to make demands. Griffin Hells, you sound like Kenobi. Just get us out of here, Kote. Fine, Cody snapped, shoving out inelegantly with the Force and violently dislodging all the rock that had tried to bury them alive. He stood up straight and pulled Rex to his feet, somehow able to pinpoint his brother's exact location even in the darkness. Happy now? Thrilled, Rex deadpanned, not letting go of Cody's hand in the dark. Rex, Cody. Obi-Wan's voice pierced the darkness of the cave. Over here, Cody shouted, waving his other arm like that was going to help. Sheepishly, he winced and grabbed his saber off his belt, activating it. He started waving that around instead, the bright white light radiating out like a beacon. Generals! There they are! Obi-Wan's voice got closer, and he and Anakin appeared in the glow of Cody's saber-like figures coming out of the mist. Are you both all right? We're fine, sir, Rex reported with a shrug. So are we. The only casualty was Anakin's lightsaber. Obi-Wan gave the other Jedi a reproachful look. It's here somewhere. I respire see, way, and besides, yours won't even turn on. Anakin put his hands on his hips and glared. Which is worse? Cody's lips twitched. So I have the only working weapon? Speak for yourself, Rex said, patting his blaster smugly. Is that blood? Obi-Wan suddenly exclaimed, darting over to Cody. You said he was fine, Rex. I am fine, General, Cody said, head twitching away from Obi-Wan's questing fingers. He hissed in a breath when Obi-Wan pressed on the gash in his hairline. Sir, I'm not concussed. It's just a cut. Obi-Wan gave him a skeptical look and his hand shot out, wrapping around Cody's right wrist and pulling the lightsaber closer, then farther away, testing the responses of Cody's pupils. Whatever he saw caused him to relax, and he let Cody's arm go. He'll run it. You aren't concussed. Thanks, Cody replied with a fond twist of his lips. He hooked a thumb over his shoulder. We should get going. Well, lead the way, Commander. Obi-Wan gestured expansively with his arm. You are the only one in possession of a light. Yes, sir. Cody smirked and set off, stepping carefully around the rest of the rocks from the cave-in. You think they have eels? Rex asked conversationally, one of his blasters clutched tightly in his right hand as they walked. Cody was in front, Rex and Obi-Wan in the middle, and Skywalker bringing up the rear. You are never going to let me forget that, are you? Cody asked rhetorically. He scoffed. No, I don't think there's any eels. Not this time, anyway, Anakin helpfully added. These life forms I'm sensing are way too small to be giant eels. That's not as comforting as you think it is, sir, Rex said slowly, his armor creaking as he swung the muzzle of his blaster around in the dark. A low, rumbling growl started to echo throughout the cavern, along with the disconcerting sound of shifting, tumbling rocks. They all froze, each one looking out into the inky darkness beyond the glow of Cody's saber, eyes straining. Cody didn't even bother reaching out with the Force, knowing he wouldn't be able to sense whatever it was until he saw it and could hunt it down. What's that noise? Rex hissed out his question, both blasters in his hands now and pointed straight out into the glittering blackness. It doesn't sound friendly, whatever it is, Obi-Wan replied. He tried to ignite his blade amid an annoyed sound when the lightsaber flickered and died, not staying lit. Blast it! Gundok! Anakin shouted, diving out of the way as the beast snarled and leapt for him. Rex, shoot it. I can't can see it. Cody, keep the light pointed towards it. I'm trying. Run, Obi-Wan ordered, taking off at a clip, the Gundart giving chase after him. General, Cody sprinted after Obi-Wan's retreating back, just ahead of the Gundart, lightsaber bouncing, then suddenly skidded to a stop. He spun around, turning to face the charging Gundart and dropped into a Beskad-ready stance, just like he'd taught Kaz to do. Months of work with the cadet had allowed him to adapt the form to lightsaber combat, and Cody knew how to use it with expert precision. Roaring, the Gundart lunged at him and Cody snarled back, swinging his new weapon in a tight, deadly arc and cleanly bisecting the Gundart in half. Victorious! His Kyber crystal hummed in his hand, the sound reminding him of his brother singing. The smell of burning, charred fur and flesh filled the cave, and without the air scrubbers in his helmet to dull the stench, Cody had to fight back the urge to gag. That smelled truly horrid. Well, that's one way to go about it, Obi-Wan said, rubbing a sheepish hand behind his head as he walked up to Cody. Good work, Cody. Cody smirked at him. I probably should have led with that. Criff, that stinks to the high hells, Rex exclaimed, hand over his nose, voice slightly nasally. I am never going anywhere without my helmet again. Yeah, that's gross, Anakin agreed, face screwed up in displeasure. Another growl echoed in the distance, followed by several more. They all shared a wide-eyed look, Gundart corpse forgotten, and darted for the exit. Cody led the charge, pearlescent light of his new weapon bobbing up and down at his side as he sprinted towards the other side of the cave, following Obi-Wan's directions down their bond. He couldn't sense the exit, but his general most certainly could, and as the only one in possession of a light source, Cody was once again leading the pack. Coming to a skidding stop, they all looked mournfully at the rather large cave that now blocked their egress. Cody held up his lightsaber, trying to get a visual sense of just how many tons of rock were in their way. It felt like a steel brick settled in his stomach when he couldn't see an end to the towering pile of rubble. They were so incredibly criffed. The Force pinged a warning along his spine, and Cody whirled around, light whipping with him as he went, the strange crackling hum of his lightsaber rattling off the walls. We need to leave, Cody said tersely. Right now, criffing hells. Rex cursed, coming to stand next to Cody, weapons at the ready. Clear that cave in, generals. We'll make sure you stay alive long enough to do it. With pleasure, Obi-Wan answered, grunting as he leaned into the Force and started lifting boulders up and away. Hurry, Anakin. I am hurrying, Master. You hurry. Rex, left. Cody tilted his lightsaber in the direction of something he definitely could not see but knew was there. Rex took the shot, sighting along the vector Cody had given him and letting out a triumphant shout when he heard the pained squeal of a Gundart and the sound of a large body hitting the floor. Hells yeah, Cody. You find 'em, I'll drop 'em. Copy that, Cody said with a vicious grin. He pointed up and to the right. There, E-Blaster, Rex crowed when another cry sounded with a telltale thump right after. That one. Got it. Rex, over there. Tango down, Cody. Above. Above. Rex, I got it, Rex yelped, firing both his blasters in quick succession. After the last shot, the distinct sound of cracking rock could be heard. Aw, Kark. Get down, Cody warned, yanking Rex back with the Jedi as more rock fell from the ceiling. It missed them by several meters, but just as they were about to relax, a sour, cloying smell started to come up from the ground, the air at the edges of Cody's lightsaber turning a sickly green. Oh, damn it, Rex. Nice going. How was I supposed to know there was poison gas on the floor? Rex snapped back at him, holstering his blasters. The faint sounds of the Gundarks fleeing from the gas made them superfluous. Poison gas? Anakin said, bringing his hands up to his face to cover his cough. Oh, Criff, poison gas. We need to get out of here, Cody said urgently, sheathing his lightsaber and raising both of his hands, flinging several rocks up and away from them, dropping the boulders somewhere in the cave. They landed with a shuddering crash that made everyone wince, but Cody didn't stop, doing it again, rattling the walls of the cave with the noise. Help me, come on. Obi-Wan and Anakin jumped to it. Even Rex was reaching for the smaller ones he could shift with his arms, but it did not take long for the gas to overwhelm their lungs. Cody was seeing stars in his vision, hacking cough shaking his chest. He collapsed, hands braced on the rocks, field of view whiting out from the edges and creeping ever inward. He looked over at Obi-Wan, who was slumped over a rock and felt his chest twist, pain spiking. No, he wouldn't let this be his end. No, get up, Cody groaned, one hand reaching feebly for Obi-Wan. Get up! Just before he passed out, the rocks in front of them exploded outward, knocking the four of them back with the strength of the blast. Cody skidded across the cave floor, propelled by the shockwave, lungs greedily hauling in the fresh air that suddenly permeated the cave. Scrambling to his feet, he darted to Obi-Wan, hauling the other man up, steadying him with one hand, then snagging Rex up with the other. Rex shoved off him and dragged Skywalker to his feet, and they all stood blinking into the exceptionally bright light. Cody started walking towards it, coughing roughly to clear the gas from his lungs, and as he did, he saw a collection of backlit figures come into focus. One hand over his eyes, he stepped out of the cave and felt all the stress drop from his neck and shoulders. You look at me, eyes. With Alpha Squad and Ahsoka. Kid, Cody darted to the cadet and snatched him up in a hug. Boy, am I glad to see you, Cody. Kaz laughed, hugging the commander back before stepping away. He spotted Obi-Wan and darted over to him, giving his master the same treatment. Master Obi-Wan. Hello, Padawan, Obi-Wan said, smiling even through his coughing, arms curling around Kaz before he pushed the cadet back by his armored shoulders. You have very good timing, Kaz grinned. Thanks, Ahsoka, Anakin mumbled, blinking at her dumbly and coughing. What are you doing here? Kaz said you needed help, Master, Ahsoka said, arms crossed and a superior look on her face. Nah, we were fine, Anakin dismissed, though his hacking cough seemed to indicate otherwise. We had everything under control. Speak for yourself, General, Rex growled at him, bent at the waist, hands on his knees as he sucked in fresh air with a single-minded purpose. Oh, you did? Ahsoka gave her master a very unimpressed look. So which part of the situation did you have under control? The blocked entrance, the poison gas, or that gun dart behind you? Gun dart? Obi-Wan yelped, whirling around. His eyes went round as the horde of gun darts that had been chasing them returned. Kundaks! Quick, block the entrance! Kaz ordered, and Alpha Squad opened fire, causing another cave-in just in time. Nice going, boys! Waxer exclaimed, looking pleased with himself even through his helmet. He and Boyle shared a high five, Chris and Longshot doing the same. Commander, get over here, Helix snapped, med kit in his hands and his eyes on the bloody gash on Cody's face. Can't we just handle it on the ship, Helix? Cody complained as he walked over to the medic anyway, letting out the occasional cough as he did. Oh, we will, Helix promised. You're all getting a thorough check. I don't like the sound of that cough. He reached up, gently cleaning away the caked dirt and blood, inspecting the wound, then sealing a back-to bandage over it perfunctorily. That'll do for now. You probably need stitches. Great, Cody muttered, rolling his eyes in annoyance. Where's Count Dooku? Ahsoka asked, looking at all of them expectantly. Yeah, about that, Anakin said, rubbing a hand on the back of his head. That situation is still ongoing. Ongoing? Ahsoka said skeptically, one of her eyebrow markings bouncing upwards. You mean after all this you lost him? No, we didn't lose him, we just, hey, chime in anytime, Obi-Wan. Oh no, Obi-Wan said, arms crossed and sardonic look on his face. I am enjoying this way too much. Anakin scowled at him. Gee, thanks. I am never going into a cave with you again, Rex stated definitively when Helix was done checking him for injuries. I am never going into a cave again, Cody agreed, shaking his head. You should tell us about it when we get back to the ship, Cody, Kaz said, subtly herding them all to the shuttle. Come on, we should get moving. Admiral Yularen said Vancouver is a terrible place to be after dark. He's not wrong, Obi-Wan mumbled, following after them. He was beyond ready to leave this planet and all its indigenous wildlife behind.